Welcome to the Epic Success Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Shannon Irvin. Now, as of late, I have been really breaking down what are the systems you need to scale. After working with thousands of entrepreneurs, CEOs, business owners, founders, I'm really can see these 4 to 5 different categories that is required to scale. And really focusing in on those of you who are at 6 or 7 figures, where I see the breakdown in scaling, wanting to scale. And I really want to talk about the 2 pieces that we're really driving for, which is to increase profit and to get our time back. And a lot of times we started the business, to be honest, a little bit out of survival, to prove a point, to say I could do it, to create freedom. But there was this drive to prove it to ourselves that we could do it. And here's what I want to talk about on this episode of the Epic Success Podcast. To scale your business to 7 or 8 figures, you need to, first of all, you have to have the system to scale. And I want to talk about what are those different areas that you must hardwire, you must get dialed in order to truly have a scalable business. And when I'm talking about a scalable business, I want you to go back to why you started it. You want to be able to make revenue that can be passed on generationally, legacy level revenue. And we want to create time freedom. And what ends up happening for a lot of people when we build a business based on that, I want to prove it, I want to get it out there, and we do, and we use that hard work, hustle, grind, eventually that leads to burnout. And I can't tell you how many 6 and 7 figure CEOs that I meet with on a weekly basis, and this used to be me as well, that on paper, our business looks amazing. But if truth be told, behind the scenes, we're the least paid employee. And we're having conversations in our head like, I can't possibly pour out any more of myself to make this thing scale. And it gets a little scary too when we're in that place, because we're like, if all I can see to grow the business, to grow profit, to scale is more of me, the thought that we don't say to anybody else is that might just kill me. That might just kill me. And so I want to talk about the 4, really 5, but 4 main categories that is your system to scale, and what must get hardwired in these systems in order for you to scale and not have more of you, to scale and get your time back. So part of what I do with entrepreneurs is help them hardwire, first of all, themselves, and we'll talk about that, so that they can get 10 to 20 more hours back in their week. What would you do with 10 to 20 more hours back in your week to work on you, to work on the business instead of in the business? How would you spend that time? Imagine the expansion that can happen if you had a moment to think without questions constantly coming your way. I was talking to a business owner last week, and she said, Shannon, I answered 42 questions, and that was just this morning. Oh, I feel the pain of that statement. And if that is you, I've got good news for you, because you can hardwire these main levers that will allow you to work on the business, to honestly get out of the business, to have your team creating revenue generation for you, and to take you from an employee, which basically we are at, if we're in that stage, to a manager, and all the way to a true owner, where you could take month off of the business and revenue continues to grow and scale. So I alluded to the first lever is, first of all, we have to hardwire you, how to lead, how to decide at that next level. A lot of times as owners, we have this vision to get it started, and then we start going for the more. And what that means is, okay, well, I've got it to 500,000. I want to get it to 1,000,000. I've got it to 1,000,000. I want to get it to 2,000,000. And we start creating vision around money versus why we started it's just a bad master, right? It's never going to be satisfied. So we've got to hardwire, remove the blocks that are keeping us stuck spinning at that revenue level we're at. We get to plan a little bit differently for scale. It's really hardwiring you to go from survival wiring, hardwiring subconscious, to scalable hardwiring and conscious. This is leadership. This is decision making. This is how you work with the team, how you personally will hire. That is all a you. So we've got to hardwire you to be able to be at the level where you can scale. And this is the one lever that most try to skip over. And that's why you're spinning on the hamster wheel of burnout, because maybe you have scaled sales, maybe you have scaled, maybe even profit to a degree, but there's so much less time left over and there's so much less energy and so much less of you. So we need to, in that particular area, we've got to hardwire you to be able to scale and be able to become that leader, that owner that can take a month off and still have revenue coming in the door. Okay, so that's the first category. The second category is time. We've got to hardwire your time. Most founders and business owners are still exchanging time for money. And what we need to do is we need to really go deep dive in hardwiring your time as a CEO, not as an employee. And this is part of that leftover from that hardwire hustle kind of mentality. So we get to break down your time systems. Really, how are you spending your time? One of the things that we deep dive with our entrepreneurs around is doing a time audit, to where we look at the time that we're spending, and with just two categories. Is this revenue generated, profit generating, or is this a negative return on investment? Is it a positive ROI or is it a negative ROI? And just this one activity I do with our new clients inside the system to scale, the 67-day year method, where we're getting them 10 to 20 hours back within the first 7 days. Now, I want to ask you, if your time was hardwired the way your vision has it versus the way your business currently has it, how much more, how much faster, how much more expansion could you create? Now, we can't create that expansion without hardwiring the next level, which is your team. We get to hardwire you as the owner and really hardwire your internal systems of hiring and onboarding so that you bring in A players that generate revenue for you instead of an E in the expense column. And a lot of times when we just get started, we're hiring somebody to take stuff off of our plate. And then we watch other people and we're like, well, I should have an operator, I should have somebody in marketing. So we should the position and we just keep handing things off. And I also call it the founder tug of war. A lot of times we hand it off, but we don't let go of the baton. And we literally are in a tug of war and we're giving our team members whiplash. And you know that you're in this turmoil when your team owners, when you say, do you have a minute, you see the look on their face like, oh no, we're going to go in a different direction. So we get to hardwire your team to be profit generators and hardwire your team to operate at that next level, just like you're operating at that next level. This is how a team generated revenue machine scales a business. So we hardwire you, we hardwire your time, we hardwire your team, and then we hardwire your profit systems. We look through, like, do you have a core offer that's generating all the income that anything else that's on top of that is just an expansion of revenue, but that there is growth and you're watching numbers and KPIs. Most entrepreneurs look at top line. I've gone from 500K to 600K, 1 million to 2 million. But we're not looking at what profit are we bringing through. And this is an area where when you use systems around profit, hardwired systems around profit, as you gain more in revenue, more comes down into your pocket. Let's just be real. Most of us don't ever take a CEO salary. We make sure everything else is covered and we look at what's left over. I don't know about you, but that wasn't the vision in the beginning. I wanted time and money freedom. And so these 4 areas really are all encompassing on a scale system. How do we scale you? How do we hardwire you so you're able to scale? How do we hardwire time so it has capacity to scale so you don't just become the most burnt out, overworked CEO? How do we hardwire? How do we scale profit? So we got yourself, time, profit and revenue are together, and team. When we really hardwire those for scale, and my angle is really using the power of neuroscience to not just build systems and processes. Yes, that is part of it, but capacity. You have to have the capacity to scale in your time, for yourself, in your time, in your team, and in your profit systems. So I hope this is encouraging to you today, because most of us are very high visionaries and we're looking for that system to scale. And so we look at marketing and we look at sales and we look at all these different areas on how to scale. And really the linchpin to you becoming the CEO owner, or we call it a 67-day-year CEO, is to hardwire those areas for scale. Hardwire yourself, hardwire your time, hardwire your profit, and hardwire your team. Once those 4 are hardwired and systems are in place, scaling becomes inevitable. 10 to 20 hours back in your week. So you're working on the business instead of in the business. And this isn't a pipe fairy tale dream. This is literally what I went through in building my business and all the mistakes I made, knowing that I was not hardwired, that I gave more of my time than my employees. My profit was always 0, right? And my team was just task doers. They weren't A-player revenue generators. And I took my business to $2 million that way. And my friends, I went through so much adrenal burnout, so much overload, to the point where I was the only one that knew all I wanted to do was get rid of this business, because I had become the less than minimum wage employee. And if you're like me, you just the vision to create what God has put on your heart, you can't let it go. And so as I started building back, I built it back different. And I built it back, I hardwired myself first, because your team, your profit, and your time follow you as the leader, you as the CEO. So you cannot get to that next level hardwired for survival and hardwired for as an employee. So that is paramount. We got to hardwire ourselves. But then as I hardwired my time and started dialing in those systems around time, where I immediately had the freedom, all of a sudden my brain started operating totally differently. And then hardwiring systems and processes around team, hiring, who to hire, how to make them revenue generators, profit, systems around profit, how to take profit. And I'm about to interview Mike McAllowitz from Profit First. It's not just like, how do I take profit? Although I'm a big believer in Profit First system. It's how do I hardwire profit within my business so that it is part of the machine? So I hope this encourages you today, that there is a system to scale. And somewhere down, if you're listening to this podcast in the show notes, there's a link to be able to apply to get on the calendar, and let's map out your specific best next step to hardwire. Let's look at your team, your time, your profit, your systems, and you on a free call. And let's walk through and develop for you your personal system to scale, because I'm on a mission now to never let an entrepreneur at 6 or 7 figures ever go through that dreaded, I want to let go of my business, I am the worst paid employee, I think I want to shut it down feeling ever again. I want you to know how to hardwire those levers so that all you have to do is have them working to scale. All right, so I hope this has been encouraging. If you are listening to this podcast, my request is that you give us a review. Tell us a 5-star review. I would love. That's like a big warm hug for a podcaster. Tell me what stood out to you in today. What did you need to hear? I hope it's encouraging for you to know there is a system for you to scale. And it is a process of hardwiring in each of those areas with the systems attached so that you no longer are trading time for dollars, so that you are no longer are working 80-hour weeks and getting paid $15 an hour when you map it out. You get started getting paid a CEO salary. You have a team that's generating revenue. You take 30 days off as an owner and your business grows without you. That's what it means to be hardwired for scaling. All right, I hope this has been a blessing to you. I want to be able to help those of you who are at 10K months and beyond. This is where the system is really the most powerful. Let's get you hardwired to scale. I cannot wait to talk to you. Myself, my team would be glad to map out what is the best next step for you. All right, that's what I have for you this week on the Epic Success Podcast. Bye for now.